I'm gonna apologize ahead of time because I might be looking down a lot because for my notes and everything. But I'm gonna start. Okay, so my project is about motivation. What is motivation? Motivation is a need or desire that energizes and directs behavior. Moving on to the 4 theories of motivation, they include arousal theory, incentive theory, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and drive reduction theory. So I'm gonna start with drive reduction theory, which is the idea that a psychological need creates an arousal state that drives the organism to reduce the need. So, for example, a need could be food. The drive would be hunger, and then the drive reduction behavior would be to eat something to reduce your drive, which is the hunger.
Live. You want to tell me what's going on? Where were you tonight? Olivia. What the hell?
Yes.
You can't be serious. Olivia, I'm trying to talk to you.
I tried tonight to make it to your dinner. I thought I'd get back in time. I really tried, but...
Okay, so as you saw in the video, Olivia was really upset because of all the things that were going on, and it represents the drive reduction theory because the need, her need was alcohol, her drive was stress, and her drive reducing behavior was finding the alcohol and drinking it. And now onto the incentive theory. The incentive theory is the theory that we're pulled by external stimuli, both positive and negative, that tempt us to do things. For example,
Hubby, come here. It's cold outside. I want $1 for the man. Honey, we don't have... Mommy, he looks hungry. You come right back. Here.
okay, in that video, for example, the homeless guy, also known as Huck from Scandal, is given money because of the incentive that the little boy gets. He sees Huck, the homeless man, and he feels this strong need to give. So he gets the money from his mom, and he goes over there to give it to him. So another example could be when you're sleeping in your room, and you're woken by the smell of food downstairs, so you come running down the steps. So in that scenario, the incentive will be the aroma of the food. Now on to optimum arousal, also known as the arousal theory. The arousal theory is the belief that a motivated behavior and or desire results in the increase in arousal. So, for example, a monkey who is searching and seeking to see the sky or to see nature again will fiddle out a lock for many hours until he sees that where the window leads him, which is usually
governing back. And I will remind both my own party and those across the aisle every day that we have the sworn duty, the sacred obligation to not just pay lip service, but to actually, finally, and definitively do better. And so I leave you with this pledge. At this time, in this place, with this presidency, it will be different.
In the video, you can see that Liv was becoming overwhelmed because she was filled with too much stimulation, which in her case was power and control, and that she became stressed, which resulted in her leaving the White House to decrease her arousal. Brings us to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs was focused on a pyramid that begins at the base with physiological needs that must be first satisfied before higher level safety needs and then psychological needs become active. The pyramid started at physiological needs, which focus on this, and then these safety needs, belongingness and love needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization needs, which focus on being the best you can be and being you to your full potential.
Right now, Olivia is dancing. I'm dancing, Jake. I'm free. Now, you can dance with me or you can get off my dance floor. I'm fine dancing alone.
As an example of Maslow's hierarchy of needs because it shows that Liv is satisfied with her physiological needs and safety needs, which left her searching for her belongingness and love needs with Jake. Bring us to our social motivations, which include achievement motivation, intrinsic motivation, and extrinsic motivation. We'll start off with achievement motivation, which is the desire for significant accomplishment for mastery of people, things, and or ideas.
When did you decide to let them ruin you?
Excuse me?
So your life's unfair, so what? That's how it is. So they're mean-girling you in the press, they're calling you names that hurt your little soft spots deep inside. Well, so what? That's how it is. So you lost someone you loved. You lost the one person who felt like family. Well, guess what? Grow the hell up, because that is how it is. The Cyrus Bean I know doesn't hide in his half-empty closet and wet his pants like a little bitch baby. The Cyrus I know is a patriot. He bites the bullet and he does what it takes to serve the Republic at all costs. So I want to know right now, in this moment, who you are. Because the pathetic shell of a person I'm looking at right now doesn't deserve to stand on the presidential seal in the Oval Office, let alone tell the president what to do. Who are you, Cy?
Liv.
Who are you, Cy? Who are you, Cy?
I'm one of the most powerful men in the world.
Who are you?
I am one of the most powerful men in the world.
Oh, yeah, so you're not a bitch.
That put for achievement motivation because Liv is trying to convince Cyrus not to leave the White House over nonsense, as she'd call it. Brings us to intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is the desire to perform a behavior for its own sake, usually in search of enjoyment, self-expression, or a challenge.
If I never laid eyes on him, then I wouldn't have fallen in love. And he wouldn't have fallen in love. That may have made for 2 more lonely people in this world, but also a lot less pain and heartache for many, many others. Senator Grant and the Grant children, for the people I love, for this country that I love. A country that expects us in Washington to solve problems, not make them. Is the love of 2 people worth all this destruction, all this attention? I mean, if it were a choice, who would choose this kind of love? So I wish we never met. But we did. And I tried. I tried and failed and tried and failed again to hide, to stop loving him, but I couldn't. I was weak. I hated myself. I wore this ring to remind me of my weakness. And when our affair was exposed, I had to follow my own advice and stand in my truth, to own who I am, to accept my faults. And I won't ask for forgiveness. Just don't ask me to undo the past. Don't ask me to fall out of love with Fitzgerald Grant, because if I could, I would. Does that answer your question?
I chose that video as my intrinsic motivation example because Liv agreed to take in that interview because she wanted people to see that she wasn't just an evil floozy that everyone thought she was, and that she was just a regular person who just happened to fall in love with the president, and it wasn't intentional or spite, in that she didn't mean to hurt any citizens of the United States. Then brings us to extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is a desire to perform a behavior due to a promised reward or threats of punishment.
Taking you live to the Senate floor as Senator Mellie Grant is seconds away from running out the clock on the Senate spending bill.
I want to thank the Vice President, as well as the Women's Caucus, for their support throughout this very long day. I I'd also like to thank the pages, along with all the Senate staff. I know many of you missed your holiday travel plans today, and I am sorry for that. I'm sorry that I had to resort to theatrics to protect what should be basic human rights. But all of you that stuck with me to the bitter end should be proud. Because of your sacrifice, millions of women across this nation get to enjoy their holidays without having to worry if they will have access to proper health care in the coming year. Finally, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. And Mr. President, I yield the floor.
All those in favor of closing debate, respond by saying aye. The ayes have it. Debate is now closed. Unit D.
As my intrinsic motivation example, because Mellie was very motivated to filibuster so she could get the bill to be discontinued. Which then brings us to our theories of motivation, starting with the James Lange theory, the Cannon-Bard theory, and the Satcher two-factor theory. The James Lange theory is the belief that fear is followed by the body's response. So it's basically the opposite of what you would think. For example, you cry when you're sad, you act crazy when you're mad, and etc. So it's the opposite. So the belief is that we're sad because we cry, and that we go crazy because we're mad.
I live.
These are your guys?
These are my guys.
It's okay. You're safe. You're safe. You're safe. You're with me. It's okay, Liv. It's okay.
I chose that video to represent the James Lange theory because Olivia's response was beating up the man, and her fear was her fear of being afraid that she was kidnapped, but it didn't hit her until after she beat up the man. Which then brings us down the list to the Cannon-Bard theory. The Cannon-Bard theory is the theory that the heart begins pounding as you experience fear, and that it's not a sequence of events or not in chronological order, and that one does not cause the other. Cannon-Bard theory because Olivia's heart beating fast and her heavy breathing was caused by her not being able to find the ring, and it was happening at the same time as she was searching for it. Finally brings us to our last theory, which is the Satcher two-factor theory. The Satcher two-factor theory is the theory that emotions have two ingredients, including physical arousal and a cognitive label. This theory focuses on the interplay of thinking and feeling, and not on the timing of feelings.
We're armed. Target locked. On your order.
Just wait.
I can't let them leave this location.
Just wait till they have her.
Ready to fire.
Ready?
Все хорошо. Все отлично. Ребят, держим под контролем.
Looks like the Russians are acquiring the asset.
Target locked.
Target locked.
Zoom in.
Stand by to fire.
Standing by.
Just zoom in, I said.
What?
On the meat. Just zoom in.
Zoom in.
All the way.
Subjects are retreating.
Fire.
No.
What's the order?
I said fire.
Don't fire. Do not fire. I know
As my Satcher two-factor theory example, because you can see in the video that Cyrus was very upset and that he was nervous and afraid, and that he related that to do not fire. That was his cognitive label, which then resulted in him yelling and screaming as a result of his fear. Okay, and now on to the incentive. Theory. Okay, and now on to the incentive, which is the theory. Okay, and next on the list would be the extrinsic theory. Oh.